All of our points about Andrew Tate have aged like the finest of wine. This industry needs to be completely made illegal. All these people involved in this industry need to be like arrested. There should be some serious repercussions. If you have a lower IQ, you will probably assume, oh, that must mean that Matthew is pro-prostitution. No, you have a low IQ. Let me break it down for you. It's all honest. I don't know what to tell you because like I didn't say that, right? And people are acting like you crazy, but we have Mutta. We gotta talk about the facts. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to episode 79 of the Thoughtful Banter podcast. I'm your host Matthew with my co-host Hussein.
Yes, sir.
Hussein's back in the DMV.
Aha.
A little temporarily, poo. We haven't uploaded in 3 months.
Has it been
2 months?
months?
I think it's maybe been 2 months. But welcome. Hussein, how have you been? How's your Ramadan been? Give us a quick recap.
Good. I mean, I'm here for the last couple of days of Ramadan and into Eid, inshallah, which is why we're able to do this in person. It's just been hard, honestly, trying to coordinate time on remote sessions for Thoughtful Banter. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means me and Matty have to get back on our game and get more serious about this. But anyways, we're here. We're recording. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll be here another weekend. So inshallah, we can maybe get another session in person while I'm here.
So in the first up in Ummah Muslim pop culture related news, there is an ex-adult film star who has been seen now wearing chador. She's converted to Islam or reverted to Islam. And it's like really big news. This was an adult star that was like definitely like people knew about, was out there. And she was just seen like in the streets, I think in Malaysia or Thailand, just out like everything covered besides like her hands and her face, right? And she's been on news outlets now. She's been interviewed about it.
Is that how she was first discovered, I guess? Like she was just seen somewhere?
That's how I first heard of it.
Okay.
Like people are like, dude, like, is this her? And then people are like doing street interviews like, yo, are you this adult star? And she's like, yeah, like that was me. And I've converted to Islam. I think it's been mostly positively received by people, as it should be. But there's been like some negative backlash of people saying like she can't be forgiven, right? So Ali Dawa actually made a video about this, right? About these guys who are like, you used to do these kinds of haram videos. You can't be forgiven. You've done too much harm, et cetera, et cetera. And Ali Dawa has made the great point of like, how can you say to a Muslim who is Sadat Toba that Allah can't forgive them of their sins, you know?
Yeah. And then he also, I think, a reason why this is particularly relevant is because it also kind of ties back into this phenomenon that we discussed before that was, I guess, shown with the conversion of Andrew Tate, right? And you definitely see, one, the misogyny, and then two, the different, like, because of the misogyny, how one conversion is treated versus another, right? You have this man, Andrew Tate, who is, for a large portion of his life, self-admitted on camera, talked about his, if not trafficking, at the very least, like, pimping of women, right? And using them in his business to get more money and, bringing them on as girlfriends, like literally explicitly like explaining his strategy.
He has a course on YouTube you could find called Pimp and Hose.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, it's like by I think they call the lover boy model.
And even he was talking about, like, he said things like, sometimes he'd have the girl on the camera, but he'd actually be the one typing, right? Like typing to the dude.
Which is gay.
Like crazy stuff.
That's crazy.
Crazy stuff. And he's like,
that man couldn't get that out of me.
Actively facilitating this kind of stuff. And yeah, he converted. And then everyone at the, was like, oh, you can't talk about that. You can't talk about his past. He doesn't have to say anything to the public about it. He doesn't have to openly address his past sins, etc., etc. You just have to take him as he is because he said the shahada, etc. He said the kalima. He said, ashhadu la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Like, that's it. Case closed.
Case closed. Yeah.
Now with this sister, it's like, oh, you can't be forgiven. Oh, you've done too much stuff. Oh, too many people have seen this. And it's like, this is a complete double standard. Complete and utter double standard. And we know on an individual level, one of the worst sins you can actually do, on par or potentially worse than kufr, I don't remember right now, which is why I'm kind of giving you that range, is losing faith in the capacity for God to forgive you. Right? It's that like fully despair that yes, right? Complete despair in the potential or capacity for God to forgive you. So much so that you're like, okay, I'm just going to give up. Like doesn't matter. I become apathetic about everything because there's no way I can be forgiven.
Right, and even in the Quran, like we have mentioned statements about this, right? It says like, in Surah Al-Falaq, and those who do not invoke with Allah another deity or kill the soul which Allah has forbidden to be killed, except by right, and do not commit unlawful sexual intercourse, and whoever should do that will meet penalty, except for those who repent, believe, and do righteous work. For them Allah will replace their evil deeds with good deeds, and ever is Allah forgiving and merciful. You know, so there's literally a verse about like, oh, what do you do if you're someone who's been evil, you've killed people, you've had sex with people, and like you've done these sins multiple times, you know, you feel like your soul's heavy. It's very simple. I just read, these are the words of your Lord. Like, all right, but see, you know, make Tawbah, believe in Allah, and move forward. What's crazy is all of our points about Andrew Tate have aged like the finest of wine. All of our points.
I didn't know if you want to mention
all of these haters. Remember we our first biggest clip on Instagram when we had like thousands of hate comments of these guys, right? All these people saying, "Oh, Andrew and Tristan are Muslim." Yeah, okay.
Well, Tristan was never Muslim.
Oh yeah, sorry. All these points though about like Andrew's Muslim. And this guy hasn't changed his behavior. In fact, as time is, and we've said this before when we talked about Andrew last time, time will show where things go. You know, same thing about Sneeko, right? And I think time has shown us that Sneeko, I think, is a little bit more serious about his deen.
Yeah.
Andrew is still, his lifestyle still, what he posts online is still the same, largely. I still see smoking. I think I'm still seeing drinking. I'm still seeing his shirt being off.
I don't know if I've seen drinking, but I've definitely seen smoking. Definitely seen the shirt off.
I've definitely seen the meme coins. Like that should be enough. By the way, that's haram.
Yeah, crypto's not cool for our brethren.
Well, not even just crypto. Like
rug pull.
A rug pull.
Wait, was it actually a rug pull?
Bro, you saw him walling on CoffeeZilla.
No.
He's like, buy Daddy Coin now, bro. It's like, now this guy's recently posting the most the most Islamophobic content on X.
Is he?
Running for, trying to be like in the UK Parliament.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
The UK. I remember he was talking about Muslim crimes.
Yeah, the uptake of Muslim crime. Yeah. Muslim crime.
No. He said, or maybe, I don't know exactly what he meant. I don't really care to know either. And I presume that he phrased it ambiguously on purpose, because that's what gets clicks. That's what gets clicks, right? But like all these guys, like Mohammed Hijab, like that white guy with the big beard, Sajjad, right? All these like online Muslim influencers like had big problems with the way he was framing this thing, because he basically said like Muslim crime, right? And what they were arguing was that what you're implying is that these are crimes that are unique to Muslims in some way, right? Rather than crimes that are committed by some Muslims,
right?
And especially since, you know, if you look historically, the vast majority of these crimes have not been committed by Muslims in this area. They've actually been committed by these types of people.
It's like, oh, London only had kidnappings when Muslims moved in. No.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's very nonsense. So it's like, if you have it in your heart where if you view Andrew Tate's conversion differently than this ex-adult film stars, you have a deep problem of misogyny, of something, right? And also, if you were to compare the two, right? And not to say this matters, but I'll bring up the point because I do think it's relevant. You have someone who was let's make it simple. Let's just call it a prostitute. Right? I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if you disagreed or not. Sex for money. So I just call it prostitution, right?
Sex work. Yeah. I mean,
sex work.
It's technically like there is a distinction between like an adult film star, but I don't think it matters that much.
Oh, let's call it sex work. You have someone who's like in sex work, doing the sex work, doing the sex and the sex work. Okay. Then you have someone who is a manager. A facilitator.
Like a big facilitator, yeah. Okay.
Who's a pimp.
Yeah.
And brags about it. So again, this is only Allah knows. I don't know. But I'm just trying to make people think. If we could see who was getting more sin, who do you think is getting more sin? The person who manages multiple sex workers and is getting most of the money because it's their operation, or the person who's maybe getting paid per video or paid per day of work.
Yeah.
Who doesn't even own the rights of their work.
If you think about it on a level of like harm, right? So people talk about the harm principle that exists in liberalism, which is basically like if I'm doing something that doesn't hurt anyone, like let me do it. Now, Muslims, I think they have a problem with it, rightfully so. But I think the way it's addressed by most Muslims is wrong. The way that it's addressed is like, oh, Islam doesn't have a harm principle. But Islam does have a harm principle. We just consider more people as potential, receivers of that harm than liberals consider. So I'd say Islam does have a harm principle, but the harm principle also is for the self, right? So you don't do certain things. You're not allowed to do certain things because there's also a self-harm that's involved in this. So if you think about it on that aspect of like the spiritual or self-harm that you're involved in, when I am in a scene, not me, someone else is in a scene, right? Some hypothetical person is in a scene. They're doing harm to themselves and potentially the person that they're doing it with, right? If they're not doing it the proper way. And then you have a third person that's like me as a worker. But then as the manager and owner, you have this third person who's not only doing harm to themselves by managing this thing and getting their income from this thing, but they're also facilitating the harm of these two people to do to themselves as well.
Right. This adult star, she talks about how, again, like people are saying that she can't be forgiven, and she's broken down like, listen, people are still seeing these videos out of me, and they think, oh, I'm still uploading content, I'm still working. Well, she's not, and she's not getting paid on these videos, right? She's already been paid. The payment structure they usually have for these stars is they pay them for a day of filming. In that day, they'll make like 5-10 videos, right?
Jesus.
So an extremely abusive system there. So she's like, even now there's content that hasn't been uploaded yet. People are going to see it and be like, oh, you're still making content. I have 2 points when she said this. Number one, porn should be completely banned and made illegal, and that actually is a beginning to another point I'm going to make later on after this. The second point is, are we really saying that Muslim brothers are seeing the new upload and then say haha? Like at some point, WTF, people are becoming way too comfortable with I don't know, like this degeneracy. I know everyone has seen adult content before, really, like you should make that assumption because it's how much is everywhere, but like we're just too comfortable with like I like, for example, like there's even brothers who I know on Instagram, and like they'll like content that will like the meme of the content is you have to understand like adult content references,
like the lore,
like even like the lore,
adult content lore.
Yeah. Like it will contain like a sound bit. It's like relating to like a website, for instance, right? And I'm like, bro, why are you liking this? And I'm like, I'm not shaming you because like, hey man, I get it.
I get it too.
I get it too. I'm not saying I'm better.
But why you don't like it, bro?
Yeah, I grew up in the West, right? Like we're all victims of this. But you're liking it. You put it on my feed, man.
Yeah. I think that opens a broader conversation about social media etiquette in general. I think a lot of people just operate on social media like no one can see them.
It's anonymous.
Right? Like they're like, but anyways, that's a different tangent that we don't have to go down.
Okay, now this is going to be a very controversial point. We might not even upload this, but I've thought about it quite a bit. I have 2 points. I don't know why you're laughing already. I think, in my mind, if I had like control and power, I think for the world, I would make pornography completely outlawed. I would use AI integrated like into like the internet to figure this out. But basically, any content ID, like content that has full nudity, ban it. Sex, ban it. And I think prostitution should be legal. Now, if you have a lower IQ, you will probably assume, oh, that must mean that Matthew is pro-prostitution. No, you have a low IQ. Let me break it down for you. It's honest, I don't know what to tell you because like I didn't say that, right? But I'm talking about harm for society, right? What's happening with this intent? Like this is everyone's like, oh, fatherless generation, weak men, low levels of sex. I think part of it is this mass exposure to pornography. Okay, let me really just go into why porn is really bad. Why is worse than prostitution and IMO? The problem with porn is a couple things. One, there is no way that I understand for someone to verify that the people in the video are consenting and adults. Right? There's a great nonprofit I think called like I'm blanking on the name of what is it called? I actually need to know this. Stopping porn. Anyway, there's an interview done with an ex-porn star who is actually now an anti-porn advocate. And in this interview, she breaks down how in one of the most like viewed videos on Pornhub or something.
She's like 16 or something.
No. She was just getting raped the whole time. She was kidnapped. She was at gunpoint. I don't know what it. No, we're talking about facts here, right? So this is a video. This is a video that like millions of people, let's say like at least 10 millions of men are seeing.
I think it's actually better, but
I'm gonna keep it like this, but I'll chill out moving forward. Okay,
just because like it helps, it jars people, right? And helps you realize like the severity of it.
Right. So this is a video that's
I'm cringing every time he like, even when he says the
the words. Okay, hold on, let me cook.
He says so hard.
We have limited time.
I'm like, God damn it! Like, okay, go.
So this is a video that let's say 20 million people have seen and have pleasured themselves to and are watching, right? And in this video, I mean, I don't think most people are evil. They're not going to watch something that makes them feel uncomfortable. It looks, you can't tell, right? Like if someone's like, hey, do this thing or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you. All right, I'm going to like live. Okay. The point is that there's that, and then there's also like the huge issue with child pornography.
Yeah.
CP being everywhere. I don't know how unless someone can like really, unless at like the very like lower ages, I don't know how someone can actually validate if anything they're watching online is actually of an adult or a very young teenager.
No, yeah. I mean, unless you're obviously like not above a
prepubescent.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically.
Right. Even then though,
difficult.
There's adults who look prepubescent and they're just adults.
Too, yeah.
So okay, then that was like, oh, this is I know this is a disgusting thing we're talking about.
The flip side of like is like finding people who look like that but are adults to mimic other things.
And there's a whole industry of stars who look like children. The point is, it's like there's with all of these issues that rise up with pornography and its implicit connection with sex trafficking. I think it's far better for pornography to just be made illegal. So that means if I ever find a video online of sex, it's illegal. Let me find out the person who uploaded it. Let me find the adults in it, or just find out who's in it. We should just assume it's illegal. Why should prostitution be legal now and pornography illegal? Again, I'm not a fan of prostitution. Prostitution was legal. There would be no need for pimps, because the very nature of pimps being around is to facilitate these women and manage them and protect them. And kind of. That's what the pimp would say, right?
Yeah.
To protect them, right?
That is what the pimp would say to justify its existence. It's a good point that you mentioned that, legalizing it removes that middleman, because you talked about the trafficking aspect of, pornography. And so one of the first things that someone who's anti-prostitution would say is that aspect of it as well.
Right.
So I'm glad you're actually mentioning that. No, the actual legalization of it would remove this person.
Right. And we're talking about how many points of harm, right? Okay, so let's say pornography is illegal. Okay. Prostitution's legal. What does it look like? It looks like if someone's a prostitute, they're working as like their own solo corp, basically, right?
Their own LLC or something.
Their own business. Their own business entity. Hey, I get to choose my customers. I feel comfortable with this person. You get to pay for my, you pay me for my services. If I get a weird vibe from you or you do something to me, I call the cops. I can call the cops on you, and I'm not scared of that, because if I tell the cops what happened, me saying that I sold sex to you isn't breaking the law. So then I'm protected as well. I've taken the points of harm with pornography of like 1 billion potential points of harm to 2 points of harm. The person in the video is being harmed. The person assaulting is harming their own soul and the person. The producer is being harmed spiritually by sending this out. All the production, everyone's being harmed. And now every single person viewing this video is being harmed. Versus, someone has a sexual urge, right? They're not married, whatever. They have to actually go and speak to a woman and get her to agree to this, which I guess will resort at least some kind of socializing, right? Some kind of like something, you know, some kind of face-to-face like interaction.
Yeah.
And she agrees to it. She consents. And she's like, yes, and this payment. If you don't see the math of that, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I feel like you're just coming from an emotional point. And again, I'm not saying this should happen. I'm just saying we're not talking about like a Imam Mahdi society. Imam Mahdi obviously going to figure out a better situation. It's not everyone gets married.
Yeah.
But sorry, that was me yapping way too long.
And, you know, I've been on pretty much most things should be legalized kick for a while now. So yeah, I think this falls into one of the buckets. I think one of the worst things about prostitution as it exists today is the pimps, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, they say they justify their existence using the logic that you use, right? Like protection for these women. And, you know, I'm taking the legal risk, for example, because I might be paying for the hotels and I might be paying for these things that these activities are happening in. And if there's a buzz, I'm taking the legal risk, which is not entirely true. And because they're also engaging in an act that's illegal, right? So if something is called, the cops are called on them, they're still arrested. But anyways, but legalization of it completely removes the necessity for this exploitative, like or we call them rent seekers, in
Pimps?
economics. Not just pimps, but anyone who qualifies under this definition, which is that there is a regulation that exists that is making necessary a class of people to exist to reap the benefits that they otherwise would not have reaped had that regulation not been there. Right?
So like the crime is only in existence because of a stupid regulation.
So a pimp exists and makes money because there's a law that says this thing is illegal, right? If that law was not there, then that pimp would not exist. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand. Yeah.
Now, anyways, so they're not like, I think actually, summarizing my point, I think that's the real harm in prostitution. And I think your point about like, you know, localizing the harm from billions of potential people to 2 or even less potentially.
Yeah.
Is a good idea. So I'm on board. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you think of like the social aspects, and this is like from a non-religious perspective.
Yeah, I mean,
I think about how many men right now can't talk to women.
Non-religious perspective. Okay, hold on. We can even take this concept back further in time, if we're looking at it purely from a non-religious perspective. In villages, when we were living, you know, in close communities that you could refer to as villages, usually whenever a boy became of age, there was some woman that he went to. So there was a woman or a group of women who were known for this thing and did this thing. And all the men were basically sent to these women as like a part of a rites of passage. Now, I'm not saying that's not necessarily the best model to use, but what it did do is that it necessarily kind of socialized these kids and got them over their fear about this thing immediately, like as soon as they became of that age. And so the idea is that the outcomes of those young men in a social aspect, and as far as socializing them and not being terrified of the opposite gender, et cetera, actually greatly benefited them. Even if the practice is like, you know, sure, the practice might be, but this is just onto adding to your point, I think. Yeah.
And people are acting like you crazy, but we have muta. We got to talk about the facts. You don't want to talk about muta?
No.
You want to talk about muta?